Should we dive in?
All right, let's get started. Welcome, everybody. Thank you so much, Brandy, today. We have been having such a great day with all of our presenters. We'll go through the reminders once again. I know you've probably seen this before, but just in case if not, number one question, yes, this will be recorded and you'll get the recordings as well as the slides sometime next week. Number two, you are in view only mode. So if you are multitasking or need to watch this later, we can't see you or hear you, but you can answer or ask any questions you want in the Q&A box or in the chat. I'll be taking a look at them throughout the presentation and we'll have Brandy answer them all at the end. If you need tech support or help at all, if you visit schoolmarketingday.com, there's a chat there, or you can send an email to marketing-ops. Also on the School Marketing Day website, there are a ton of giveaways and a chance to win a free website from Finalsite. So take a look there for all that we have to offer. So I won't waste too much more time, but I'll let Brandy kick it off with her presentation.
Thank you, Emily. I was just talking to Mia, and it turns out the last time both of us presented, we were both very, very pregnant. So first day back, gotta dust myself off. It's been a while since I've talked to y'all. I'm Brandy Eppolito. I'm the VP of Marketing here at School Admin, happily now part of Finalsite. And in my past life, I worked in admissions and recruitment marketing for the University of Texas at Austin. I'm so happy to be here with y'all today. I like to see myself as a lifelong learner. I'm a firm believer in ABL, always be learning. And I think that's particularly important for us right now since the whole world as we know it is changing so quickly. Let me throw out the caveat. This presentation is not about COVID. I know we're all tired about talking about COVID, but it is context to the world we're in. So I have just 2 slides, bear with me, and then we won't mention the word again. So the HBR referred to this moment that we're going through right now of rapid change as punctuated equilibrium. You might have heard us talk about this at a school admin webinar in the past. But for those of you that haven't, the quote is, evolution in the education ecosystem happens through punctuated equilibrium. Long periods of relatively slow change interspersed with occasional moments of rapid adaptation. The current pandemic is a punctuation moment. So I don't know about you, my school, UT, we moved really, really slowly. And then all of a sudden, boom, in came COVID, that punctuation moment, and ready or not, our entire way of interacting with families and really the entire world changed. So it made it harder to do our jobs. And it also made it harder to, please our families, to impress the families we're trying to impress. I know several speakers today have talked through this, but everyone has become accustomed to this digital first world. You can get everything from ramen to a car at the click of a single button. And it really feels like we all have to be embracing that always be learning mindset to make sure that our schools remain successful for the long term. So I'm looking for inspiration anywhere I can find it. I love podcasts, I love blogs, I love email newsletters, all of it. But color me surprised when I found some inspiration from one of the most unexpected sources, Beauty and the Beast. Emily, I have a poll here. Do you mind running it? This is a really important official poll. Who has seen Beauty and the Beast? Okay, so we have at least one person that hasn't. And for you, I'm not going that deep, so I think you'll get it. Sorry if there are references you don't get. Everyone else, great, fantastic. You'll get it. Okay. So I'm the parent of a toddler, and if yours is anything like mine, it looks like Charles from your comment in the chat that you are. I've seen the same show or movie a million times. They get stuck on one and we see it over and over again. So for a while for us, it was Wreck-It Ralph. Now my daughter is obsessed with Beauty and the Beast. So I'm about to dive into the lessons I learned from Beauty and the Beast while watching it for the 700th time. And if you're wondering what's going on this slide, I put this in as a placeholder to share an adorable, perfect pic of my cute little kids all dressed up in their Halloween costumes. But as a parent, I should have known that was going to happen. And instead, here's what I got. Let's see. So I did not get the cute picture I was hoping for. I should have known it, but this is entertaining nonetheless, I think. So here's hoping that this session goes a little bit better than that photo shoot did. Okay, so let's dive in. Lessons from Beauty and the Beast for admissions and enrollment. First, as the song implied, you've got to be a great host. So despite the Beast saying that if Belle doesn't eat with me, it's hard to take myself seriously talking about this movie so deeply in a professional context, but here we are. If Belle doesn't eat with me, she doesn't eat at all. that was the beast's instructions to his staff, but they refused to let Belle go hungry. And not only did they provide her with sustenance, they did it with flair. There were multiple courses, there were songs, dances, candlelight, you name it, they had it. I think what they recognized was, at the end of the day, it's really not about the food, it's about the experience. So how as school leaders do we create those experiences that go above and beyond and really impress families as they'd like to be? In a survey we recently published in our Widening the Aperture book, which, little plug, you can find on schooladmin.com/resources, we found that 79% of the most successful schools are mapping out every step of the admissions and enrollment process. Orna Siegel actually talked about this in the last session. So if you didn't get to attend hers, you might want to watch the recording. It was really great. But this is one surefire way to really develop a connected and a cohesive and exceptional experience for your families. Basically, from the first time they interact with your website, through the application process and the enrollment process to that first day of school, all the way through to graduation, map it out. Who do they interact with? Who's communicating to them? What are we communicating? Even what systems are we using to communicate? Are there gaps where they could get cold feet or feel neglected? Are there points of friction that make it too hard for them to do what they need to do? Look into all of this. And this, of course, takes way more than the admissions office, this exercise. You've got to bring in colleagues from across the school to help. Once you have that map, once you see what the whole journey looks like, look for ways to make it easier. If you are requiring printing paper forms, like my son's daycare did for enrollment, where I had to write his name and birthday and my name and my contact information 18 times and handwrite it and hand bring it in, stop doing that. That's friction. It's annoying. I'm tired of doing it. I did it. I wanted to be there, but it's needless. Again, your family can buy like a luxury car online in a few clicks, and people expect everything to be that easy. Next, make sure your journey is consistent. If summer melt's a problem for your school, is it because you maybe go radio silent during that time? Can you build in connection points with the community during that so they feel cared for and kind of, their hand is being held through it? Also, look for ways to make it really special. So I thought a great example of this, my mom recently bought an apartment in Austin. She wanted to be near the grandbabies, of course. And so I was going with her to tour different properties. And we walked into one unit at one community, and on the kitchen counter, there was a tote bag branded with their name, with a few little goodies, a little mini split of champagne, a note card that said, "Welcome home, Linda, not Lindy," and even a toy for my mom's dog. And it said, like, "Welcome home, Heidi." I don't know how they got her name. That maybe is where marketing goes from magical to creepy. But they basically went out of their way to make it feel really special and make it feel like home. At that point, she had no idea where she wanted to live, but guess where she ended up signing a contract? It was that one, because they really made the experience feel special, and she felt so at home and so welcome there. And finally, keep your efforts going after they signed that enrollment contract. Your hosting should stretch well beyond the admission process, well beyond the enrollment process. How can you make everyday days feel special? Narings Hall, I love Monica over there. I use her examples a lot. She's amazing. So there's the picture on the left is one from the first day of school, and the one on the right is the seniors welcoming the one on the left is orientation day, and the one on the right is seniors welcoming freshmen on the first day of school. I love this. I think every step of their process is so thoughtful, so Instagrammable, so celebratory, and so fun. It's not just about paperwork or checking the box. They're really, really being great hosts. I feel like I should caveat now, every lesson won't be this long. I know we have 10 to go through, so don't get nervous. I promise to stick to the time. So lesson number 2, it's easy to be misunderstood. So the first time my daughter watched Beauty and the Beast, she was a little bit nervous, a little scared, and she asked if the Beast was mean. And my husband answered, "He's not mean, he's just misunderstood." And I think he was right. I think we all find out that deep down inside, the Beast is just a big softie. He's just a little misunderstood. But it's really to be misunderstood at your school if you're not the one driving the narrative. You have to be in charge of building the story and the brand of your school, and ensuring everyone knows what that story is, because if you're not driving the story, someone else is. In order to do this, you've got to be really confident in your school's differentiators. In fact, school admin logo, didn't mean to sneak that in, but love it. In fact, 83% of the most successful schools have a clearly defined value proposition. So how do you know what sets your school apart from the herd to develop that value prop? I'm personally a big fan of working sessions and focus group type work. So one way I've done this in the past is I gather a small group of parents and students and alums for a working session. I give them all a stack of sticky notes and a pen, and I ask them to write down all of the reasons they chose to enroll in my program. One reason per sticky note, and I give them 10 minutes to write down everything they can think of. While they're writing the reasons down, I draw this matrix on the slide on a big whiteboard. So you can see 4 different quadrants. At the end of their brainwriting session, I ask them to place their sticky notes on the quadrant that coordinates with it. So you can see the scale. The left is uniqueness versus peers. And then on the bottom, we have influence on the decision to enroll. So we're going least unique to most unique, least influence on decision to enroll, most influence. So as you can see, the top right quadrant is the key, right? We want items that are both influential and unique because they're really important to enroll and no one else has them. And we call those key advantages. So this is an example of how it played out during my UT days. And you can see those important basics on the bottom right. They're kind of table stakes, right? We could call them that. Everyone has them. They're probably on every website. But again, the upper right quadrant, that's something that we have that pretty much no one else has. This is a little dated, so you can take these with a grain of salt. But so from our website to our phone calls to our emails, we make sure that these key advantages are hit on time and time again. And once we have those stories down, we need to make sure our entire school community knows about it because everyone needs to know what sets us apart, not just our team. One example that I often reference of a school doing a great job is Lawrence Academy's podcast for current families. They use this as a way of sharing their differentiators and those anecdotal stories that show their value prop in action with the entire community. And I think that's a great idea. You can listen to it on your commute to school, hear some stories, get up to date, and really they're just reiterating time and time again what sets them apart. Next, we got to be open to change. If you think about it, the beast was willing to find a new way of interacting with people, especially when it came to controlling his temper. And Belle was willing to change the way she ate oatmeal to make the beast feel better too. So we've all got to be willing to change some things about ourselves. What isn't good is an aversion to change. I think one of the most dangerous things you can say is that's the way we've always done it. Our schools, our reputation, our culture, these are not static things. So we have to be open to change if we want to stay at the front of the pack. How do we know when it's time to change? I think it's easier than we make it out to be. Sometimes, we like overthink it. Let's just ask our families. We talked a lot in the past. You can find blog posts on it about NPS, Net Promoter Score. If you've ever answered the question, how likely are you to recommend our product to a service or a friend? That's NPS. So you can put this one question survey in front of your families to see, are they as happy as we think they are? Of course, you can learn a lot from exit surveys. I think you should be doing these, please. And a couple reasons why, right? Sit with them when they sit down with the family when they choose to leave. We can find out what wasn't working, what was working, why they decide to leave. And I think another, symptom of it or side effect of it is that they get concrete, besides getting the concrete feedback, is they leave feeling heard. They know that we want to improve things and we want to feel better. And that's really, really important. You can also do focus groups, not as specific as that brainwriting exercise I talked about, but just general, how's it going? You could do pizza with the head of school, coffee chats. But the key thing to remember with all of these is don't ask the questions if you're not actually willing to make the changes, because that's going to do more harm than good. If you're going to help people be heard, you have to be willing to enact change. Up next, number 4, real beauty is on the inside, as we learned from good old Gaston here. So it's not just about having a beautiful, shiny campus. It's a lot more than that. And I think we found that out especially true, during COVID, when we couldn't even bring people to our campuses. So what set us apart then? What are your values? What's your vibe? What's your school's personality? You want your prospective families to get a feeling for this before they even step foot on campus, which is why your website's especially important. So I love what Putney School does right on the homepage with their values. If you're looking for an ultra competitive traditional environment, I think they make it clear from the very start that this probably is not the right fit for you. They also use student profiles to reinforce the values in different words and from different perspectives, which I think is really important, right? They're saying the same thing, but through really authentic words. Another way to get your vibe across digitally, like I know we think it's really expensive to get overproduced videos and like can't even bring them on campus, and how are we going to do this? I recommend that you don't overproduce it, as the goal is to let them get an authentic feel for your school, and you don't want it to be too shiny and perfect. I love how Andover has an Instagram stories campus tour, and they have one of their students lead it. I think it's perfect. So let your students tell your story, and it's more authentic coming from them anyway. And I don't know if you were in the keynote with Ted Wright. I hope you were. He was amazing. He mentioned like they don't trust us anyway. Parents, families, they don't want to hear from us because they want to hear from us. They don't necessarily trust everything we're saying. So we have to have more voices reinforcing what we're saying to, build that credibility. Okay, lesson number 5, know when to say no. And Belle sure did, thank goodness. I think this is why she's my favorite. Okay, so know when to say no, stay true to your mission values is another way of saying that, right? Like, let's be true to ourselves. Just because the competing school down the road is doing something does not mean your school needs to do it. Being true to your mission and to your values, and also being, I think, upfront about it from the beginning, like let's not hide it, we are who we are, is the best way to ensure that you're recruiting and retaining mission fit families. I know this is easier said than done if your enrollment numbers are not where you want them to be. And to that, I'd say, fake it till you make it. And I love this image so much. So I mentioned I worked at UT, 2 different programs. The first one I worked for had a wait list a mile long. And while there, it was really easy to be selective, really selective, and to pick, the perfect students that aligned perfectly with what we were trying to do. And then on the flip side, I worked for a program that was really, really struggling to meet its numbers. And basically for that program, the admissions process felt like a transaction. You want in, great, like here's our contract, sign it, write us a check, and that was it. It was that easy. After a lot of convincing, I was able to get my program director on board with allowing me to create an actual admissions process with more rigor, including interviews, a few steps, real process. You might be thinking, hey, you said to remove friction earlier. That sounds like friction. But I would say some friction is good, right? We want to insert friction where we think it's important, but we don't want it to be for silly things like paperwork or faxing or mailing. We want it to be about important things like a rigor and process of application. So by making our process feel more selective and by adding more steps to the process, our enrollment numbers actually went up, not down. And I think that's because, as another school put it to me once, you're only as good as the number of students you don't let in. You're only as good as the number of students you don't let in. So make your families feel like getting into your school is really something special, because as we know, it is, but sometimes they have to be convinced of that. Okay, next up, loyalty is everything. And really, of course, this is about retention. I saw this quote the other day and I really love it. I know we don't like to refer to our families and students as customers, but I think you get the gist, right? Customers eat first. Excuse me. So no matter what you're doing, if it's an open house for the school year, maybe you consider doing an admission event for returning families. If you're giving out special new swag to prospects, maybe you can consider purchasing some for your current families. I know budgets don't always allow, maybe we can give it to them at a discount then. But in everything we're doing, let's think about how we're treating the prospects so special, rolling out the red carpet for them. How do we do the same for our current families so they continue to feel special and they continue to come back year after year? It's really important. And I know we all know this like philosophically, but I think sometimes when we're in the day-to-day, it's really easy to forget about it. Earlier, we talked about always be learning. I would say also always be closing, always be selling. Again, just because a family is currently enrolled does not mean they will choose to re-enroll. We have to tell them over and over again and reiterate why our school is worth the investment, time and time again, at every touch point, every experience. So don't just assume they know, and don't just assume that decision to enroll at your school is static, because it's not. It's always open to reevaluation. Of course, retention is not just the job of admission or marketing. We have to get the whole school involved, get that, form that retention committee. In the end, that's really, I think, the only way that we can be successful is involving people across the school, because we're not the only people families are interacting with, by far. I won't go too deep on retention tactics, because we all know that's its own presentation or like entire course. But we do have a free ebook that you can find on schooladmin.com/resources, and it's called Recipe for Retention. So I'd invite you to check it out or reach out to us after the session to talk through it. And finally, I would say get creative with how you reward the loyalty of those families that continue to enroll at your school, and especially those that refer other families to you. So as Ted mentioned, don't pay for referrals. We don't want to do that, but we do want to thank them. So this is a great example of how the HR Brew newsletter rewards its subscribers for referrals. The more people you refer, the more swag you get. I don't see this as being paid. Maybe it could. So you can get creative. And again, I'm not recommending you get a piece of software to do this. It does not have to be this fancy, but I think it's important to say if someone refers a family to your school, be sure to send them a quick thank you note, because that can go a really, really long way. Thank them, be grateful. Next up, persistence is key. Feeling, again, more and more ridiculous to keep referencing Beauty and the Beast here, this extensively in the workplace, but I'm rolling with it. The Beast staff, I never knew I couldn't think of what to call him. Is it his staff? Is it his team? I don't think they're his servants. I don't like to think of it that way. So we'll call it staff. The Beast staff stayed on top of him. So even after years of his not so kind behavior, they stuck with him. When people were bombarding the castle and trying to invade to kill the Beast, they stopped them and they were there for him. So even when they were down to the last rose petal. So again, another stretch of an analogy, but bear with me. So if you want your prospects to enroll, it takes a lot of effort and takes continued effort. In that same survey I referenced, 79% of the most successful schools have at least 5 touch points with their prospects. And really 5 touch points sounds low to me. I think it's a lot more than that for many. We also saw that 69% responded to inquiries in less than 24 hours. And I would hope you could get even faster than that. At least an automated if you can't get there, individually. At least give them something until you can respond personally. And a lot of this ties back to what we talked about earlier in the session. You got to map that journey, create a plan for what your touch points will be like after a family inquires. You don't want to be reactive, like they're inquiring, what should we say now? What should we do? Let's have a plan. Let's be proactive about it. And have a plan for, once they submit the contract, what happens, first day of school, map it all out. So you have the plan all the way through. Even better, if you can do it, map out a few different paths based on specific interests or segments or populations, however you want to do it, to make it a little bit more personalized. And it can be really, really impactful if you're able to do that. I'd also say, don't forget to use multiple channels to connect with your families. You can pick up the phone, you can send a text message. I'm also a fan of direct mail when sent at the right time with the right message to the right person, right? Like it's got to be personalized. I don't want to send a flyer. That's not going to convert at a high rate, but a personalized letter with, something special that can really make an impact. Also, don't forget to feature a variety of voices. So maybe one email comes from the admissions director with info on the application process. Then maybe they get a newsletter from the marketing team highlighting some great activities going on. Maybe next it's a handwritten thank you note from an admissions ambassador, like thanking them for taking a campus tour. And actually I had firsthand good experience with our head of school calling just before an application deadline to say, thanks so much for your interest. I see you have an application started. Are there any questions I can answer for you? It went a really, really long way. So you want your families to start to feel like part of that community before they ever even enroll, and helping them connect with multiple community members and hearing a lot of voices really, really helps with that. All right, next let's talk about the importance of being humble and kind. When I first started in admissions, I almost really felt kind of uncomfortable playing up the strengths of our school. It felt too salesy, it felt braggadocious, it was really not natural. Here is the thing, that is our job. It's our job to talk about all of the reasons our school is amazing. It's not bragging. I think we need to do it again in an authentic way, and we need to be honest and truthful. But I think I've now begun, it's still uncomfortable, right? It's a muscle we have to work on. But I think I now recognize that there's a difference between confidence and cockiness. Confidence is not just encouraged, but it's required. But like be cool about it. Like don't be rude, be confident though. Also, when you're making decisions to help you meet your goals, along those same lines of being kind, avoid short-term thinking. Another way of saying this might be don't cut off your nose to spite your face. So this example is atrocious and I love it. So, I have a Canon printer, so I don't totally love it. Anyways, here's an example from Canon. They are being sued for disabling the scanner function on all of their all-in-one printers that run out of ink. So if a Canon customer that chose to buy a Canon printer chooses not to replace their ink cartridges, Canon is going to render the entire machine useless. Someone somewhere at Canon decided, hey, our revenue is down. I know how we can make more money. And they rolled out this brilliant idea. But I think we can all assume that one, they really lost some long-term customers that will never be back. And two, they're being sued. So before you roll out, this is an extreme example, I realize, but it is hilarious. So before you roll out any new initiatives and processes, think about both the short-term and the long-term impacts on both your prospects and your current families. Like play out that chess game, right? How does this impact them in a month and 2 months down the line? You can't just add in steps to a process willy-nilly. You don't want to take them out. So really like try to avoid that short-term thinking and be kind to your users. And finally, on the subject of being kind, be sure you leave every family with a warm feeling after they interact with your school, even if it's a family that has chosen either not to enroll or not to re-enroll. So you want to leave them with some kind words, some gratitude. I think if you've ever been on Yelp, which I think we all probably have, you know that negative word of mouth spreads way faster than positive word of mouth. So do what you can to make every experience with your school end on a positive note. It might seem strange, but really, even those families that choose not to enroll at your school can become raving fans, and they can serve as informal ambassadors via that word of mouth marketing we were talking about. So do what you can to ensure that what they're saying about your school is good, even if they're not going to your school. Nearing the end, one of my favorite topics, surprise and delight. Do you remember that scene? I know, all but one of us has seen it. So do you remember that scene in Beauty and the Beast where the Beast surprised Belle with a massive, super impressive library? Let me answer that for you. Of course you remember this scene because we all do. It was a turning point for the relationship. It's an amazing library, and I digress. It's amazing. Of course you remember this scene. Don't forget about the power of surprise and delight for your school. We don't all have, mega castle libraries that we can gift to a prospect or a family. So start small. Small personalized efforts can go a long way. If you know a prospective student is interested in soccer, at school I'm in, folks know this example. Can you mail them 2 tickets to your next soccer game with a handwritten note from the coach? Can you send them something sweet on their birthday? I love this little mini cake. I think it's adorable and it's really pretty affordable. And don't forget, the surprise and delight doesn't have to stop when they become a student or even when they graduate. Alums can be a huge source of referrals, and eventually, like early pipeline, they might send their own kids to your school. So keep that connection going. This picture is a cute little Longhorn that UT sent me just after my son was born. Again, I don't know how they find out. Sometimes marketing is both magical and creepy, but it did give me warm fuzzies. I'm sharing it here with you today. I shared it on Instagram. I talk about it all the time. That's a lot of marketing buzz for a very small investment. Ted talked about that importance of, building word of mouth marketing and buzz. And I think this is just a really great example of how schools are doing it. And lastly, we made it to our final lesson from Beauty and the Beast. This one is inspired by both Maurice and Belle, who were by some thought of as the village loonies, but really, I think we all know they were the only ones with any sense in the entire movie. So you got to embrace what makes your school unique and use it everywhere. I know Aspen Academy was on a session earlier. If you're here, hello, I love your school. So a value prop isn't just what we say, it's also what we do. And I think Aspen Academy does a great job of this. So from their website, they are the nation's first integrated through pre-K, first integrated pre-K through 8th grade leadership and entrepreneurial development program, which is amazing. They boast over 250 student-run businesses. In a very on-brand fashion, they host an annual competition where students get to compete to win real prize money for an invention or a new idea. 8th graders create business plans, websites, and they present it to the community, pitch their ideas, and I love this. Current families are seeing their students' hard work in action, which is amazing, but also what a great recruiting event for the community to see this and see just like all the great work the students are doing. It's a really, really cool idea. In addition to being true to yourself and not afraid to show who you are, I think don't be afraid to try something new. Try something out of the box. LaSalle College High School, brought their Spirit Week virtual last year, and I thought it was really creative. Monday through Wednesday, students competed in esports tournaments for Fortnite, Rocket League, and other video games. I have no idea what some of these are. That's okay. I'm not their target market. They also had a dunk contest and a talent show with pre-recorded videos, and they had the students vote on it. But I'd also say, like, why not have prospective families or the community at large involved in the competition or voting too? Extend that reach, build that pipeline from it. I think LaSalle clearly knows what their students are interested in. They know who they're trying to serve, and they weren't afraid to experiment with something new, which is a really, really great combination. Really, it all goes back to something we talk about a lot. It's one of our core values at School Admin: try, fail, learn, repeat. Sometimes you just have to go for it and see what happens, and know that not everything's gonna be a win, but it's worth trying. To take our keynote speaker's advice to heart, I have this wonderful last minute addition for you. Ted is right, every presentation really should have a dog in it. These are not my dogs, they are someone else's dogs. But they are posed as Beauty and the Beast. They did a better job than my children did, so it was good enough for me, and I didn't want to deprive you of this very high quality content. So I couldn't end on a better note than this, I don't think. Thank you so much for joining me. I would love to geek out about dogs or kids or Beauty and the Beast or admissions and enrollment with you, so don't hesitate to reach out. Here's my contact info. Thank you for coming.
Perfect. I shared links for both ebooks that Brandy mentioned in the chat if anyone wants to go ahead and download them. But we have time for questions if anyone wants to ask anything specific or bounce ideas off of Brandy or the rest of the group. We are here to help you out. In the meantime, I'm going to launch a quick poll.
I agree, Blair, 100% no. Sorry, Emily, didn't mean to cut you off.
No, you're fine. I just saw it and I agree.
Absolutely not. Thanks, Colleen. Thank y'all for coming. I know it's the end of the day, long day. I appreciate you all.
Besides Beauty and the Beast, what's Parker's favorite Disney movie at the moment?
It's Disney, but she loves Wreck-It Ralph. She loves that was the one she watched constantly, and Beauty and the Beast has just worked its way in for her. Wreck-It Ralph Breaks the Internet and Wreck-It Ralph OG, both her favorites.
I have not seen either of those.
Oh my gosh, they're actually really good. They're really good. They have a lot of like jokes that only big kids would get, but it's also very funny for kids. So I think it's a good combo. Thanks, Kristen. Oh, Kristen, I haven't seen you in so long. Thank you. Thanks for coming. And I agree, Erin. Did y'all know, we watched 101 Dalmatians for the first time. It's the 60s or the 50s. Did y'all know that? Because I did not.
I did watch the new Cruella a few weeks ago on Disney.
I'll have to watch that.
It's like dark and creepy and weird, but really good.
I won't show Parker that.
Yeah, no, definitely not for kids. That's the adults who have Disney Plus. All right. Well, I don't think we have any questions. So I will let everyone go. I think you can end your day a little bit early, start happy hour, grab a snack, whatever you need to do.
Bye, y'all. Thanks. Thanks, Emily.